Welcome back, everybody, to A Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I would like to introduce Traci Hill. Traci Hill is a coach who specializes in helping people heal physically by raising vibrations and releasing negative emotions and attachments using subtle energy. I'm really curious about this. What is subtle energy? What does raising vibration means for all the people listening for the first time? But before we go into that, what brought you into this incredible journey that you are currently in?
Hello, Lino. Thank you for asking. Well, back in 2000, I was finishing up my master's degree in kinesiology, and I wasn't feeling well. And oh, Lino, my son just got here.
I'm with them, just so you know.
Okay. So I got diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and of course, this took a little bit of time to understand that what was happening, but I was like losing feeling. I was like falling asleep. My whole right side would go numb. I had all kinds of issues happening. And when I got diagnosed, the doctor told me, you're going to be in a wheelchair the rest of your life if you don't take medication. And I was like, that doesn't sound good. But I started on a medication because I didn't know what to do. I mean, I was not doing well. I finished my master's degree and started working for the university. I was working with athletes, so I know the body really well. And I'm thinking I could, it can't be this difficult to figure this out, right? But I didn't really know what MS was. And so fast forward, I'm a Chicago firefighter. I've been on for 23 years. Got on that. And in the meantime, I was going up and down with diagnosis, like the symptoms were just going all over the place. I started a medication. It was horrible. I had to do a shot every day. And I felt like I had the flu every day. I'm like, this can't be okay.
Yeah.
This cannot be okay. So I decided that I'm going to figure out if they don't have a reason for diagnosis, right? It's not like I broke my arm. You fell, you broke your arm, and that kind of stuff. They don't have a reason for diagnosis. There's no cure. There's something more to this. I'm going to dig deeper. I'm not believing the doctors at this point, because the medication, how can you feel sick this much and it be help you? That doesn't make sense to me.
I totally understand that. Yeah.
I'm sure you do. So down the rabbit hole I go. Pew. Started digging. I was in the military and I had shots to go overseas. I had a series of 9 shots. That's one cause. There's environment. There's the food you eat. There's the thoughts you think. And so as I'm digging and I see really the whole thing for all disease, I don't care what you have, is stress. You break an arm, it's stress.
Mm-hmm.
If you get heart disease, it's stress. So there's mental, emotional, spiritual, physical stress. And so, it got me thinking, well, why do certain people handle stress okay and other people not? We have
Right.
different levels. We have these different, it's a microcosm of stress, right?
Mm-hmm.
It reacts to people on so many different levels. Well, I started to realize that there's an emotional component. And
how did you start to realize that there was an emotional component?
I don't know. Actually, I think it's just downloaded to me. So
Okay,
at some
that makes
point,
sense.
maybe
Right.
Something inspired me.
Sure.
But I realized well, I'm feeling, my issues were like anxiety, control issues, always had to be doing something, overly stubborn, overly independent. And I started to see some patterns in myself and realizing that emotions certain emotions create a higher stress factor and thus create a stress in our body. So, for example, excess fear, which I love talking about fear because it's a good one, but excess fear causes bladder and kidney issues. Okay, so it causes them to be out of balance because fear feeds on the kidney and bladder. So it's all the fluid in your body. So anything to do with fluid in your body or the kidney bladder, we have a fear issue. Now, when I talk about fear, I don't mean phobias so much because not many people actually have a phobia. I'm talking fear of success, fear of failure, fear of abandonment. There's so many fears that you can have. Fear of, you know, a virus, right? That we just went through. Fear of all kinds of things. And that fear is actually like a lack of control, and you become a victim, which is a very scary place to be, because now you don't have personal power. But I get ahead of myself. So when I started to break down, and again, this is going over a good amount of time, but seeing emotions and starting to learn the traditional Chinese medicine ways and how all of this connects. And then I realized, well, you know, they're saying that my brain has lesions and that's what's causing the numbness on one side. Okay, well, sure, but why am I getting different symptoms than other people? And, you know, I started losing hope in most of allopathic medicine when I realized that people are getting, let's say, like a hysterectomy because, you know, their female organs aren't working well, or people get a gallbladder removed because of, you know, it's inflamed. But once you do that, the rest of your body actually has to make up for that.
Has
And
to
it's never the same.
overcompensate.
Yeah, it's never the same again. How do we get to that point? How are we getting to this point where a certain organ gets inflamed and it's because of an emotion attached to it? But then removing that, you know, everything is connected, and it's all connected by fascia tissue on the physical level and our spiritual self. It's all connected. So we can't disconnect anything. So when we go to a specific doctor and say, you know, this is a problem, and they of course want to remove it because they get paid lots of money to give you surgery, now we have an issue because we have an imbalance, and that imbalance can't be made up. So as I continued to go down these rabbit holes, I just realized that emotions are really the crux of everything. So you have something happen in childhood, typically. I mean, everyone has a trauma in childhood. Again, the severity, the level of trauma is different for everybody. So there's something that happened in childhood that shaped your thoughts. Those thoughts shaped your emotions. Those emotions shaped your reality. The reality shaped your habits. And so now you might find yourself as I just turned 49, but you might find yourself as a 35-year-old going, you know, I keep picking the wrong partner, keep picking, you know, for me, it was someone I could fix, like a narcissist. Okay. That was me. And so you find these patterns in your life that continue to shape your reality. So it's this like cyclical loop, right? You're feeding the thoughts based on the emotions, based on past experience that continue to shape your habits. And it's a self-feeding loop that is very, very difficult to get out of if you aren't aware of, you know, why you're having it, what's happening.
It's a
If you're not aware of
self-sabotaging
your
loop.
emotion. Yes. And sabotage is another one. Yeah. So, yes. So fear is a very big umbrella category. It's huge. It has so many underlying components that trickle down into other things. And then anger is another one that feeds on the kidney and gallbladder. So people who like to drink alcohol, because alcohol or the liver likes sugar, and sugar is an alcohol or fermented, right? So, you know, there's one facet there. If you are, you know, stuck on this alcohol, it's because you've been trying to suppress something, typically anger. And anger comes in many forms. There's passive aggressive, and there's sarcasm. Sarcasm's very common right now. All different forms of anger. But if you find yourself needing sugar or crunchy, salty snacks, there's anger. And so I see these patterns in people. And again, this took years, but I can see patterns in people based on how they drive, how they hold themselves, their voice, so long as they haven't had voice surgery. I can tell by voice, I can hear the subtle tones in a voice and know where they're at. I can know if they're not just lying or telling the truth, but where they're really coming from, where their emotions lie.
That's incredible.
So it's just, yeah, like you, I just became very observant and really wanted to understand the human psyche. Like I love psychology, but I knew that there's something more that psychology isn't covering, right? So there's
Right.
this whole energetic body, and that's kind of where I fall into. And so, I was initially doing health and nutrition, fitness and nutrition coaching, but
Mhm.
my clients weren't adhering to things. And I'm like, why aren't they adhering? Why aren't they just doing the program? So then I had to get into the psychology again. So it's like the
Yeah.
whole, it's not even just psychology, it's the mindset, the conscious mind is not attached to the brain. The brain is just an input output. The consciousness is coming from something outside of your physical body that's represented within the physical body. And that is what we call downward causation. It's like you get a message up here,
Wow.
a subtle energy message, and it trickles down and it becomes part of your physical reality. So if you're constantly thinking thoughts that are out here, right? Your thoughts are in this space that are out, it's outside of your physical body, really. It feels like it's inside your head, but it's really not.
Right.
I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy. Well, that becomes your physical reality. I'm not worthy. So you create situations that show that you're not worthy because your ego wants to show that it's right. Your ego loves to be right. So your ego will prove to you that, yeah, you're not worthy. And so it's just becoming aware of these patterns can get you out of the patterns you don't want.
So how does someone start to become, let's say that today I'm feeling, I'm having some anxiety and I'm feeling unloved. Let's just say someone doesn't love me today, or I'm not feeling their love. What what can I do at that point, or anybody in that point, at that situation, to they have this awareness, okay, I'm feeling this feeling. It's probably not true, but how does someone actually shake it off?
Well, so it doesn't happen right away. So
Mhm.
typically what happens is you have this thought. So it might be, you wake up and you feel unloved. Okay, let's say you feel unloved because your spouse isn't cleaning up after themselves. Okay,
Mhm.
I'm going to have to give it to like a real
Sure.
world scenario here. So like your
Sure.
spouse doesn't clean up, right? And you suddenly feel kind of unloved or unheard. Like you've asked your spouse, hey, clean up. They don't do
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Right.
So now this translates into I'm unloved, I'm unlovable, I'm
I'm not
unworthy,
heard. I'm not listened. I'm
I'm
not
not
cared
heard. Yep,
for.
exactly. What it takes is one to acknowledge it. Most people they ignore it. They shove it down with TV, with gossip, with shopping, with
Mhm.
food, with alcohol. So it actually takes a very aware person, someone who really wants to change, to stop and say, okay, you know what? I just felt myself feel that feeling of being unloved.
Mhm.
Then, whatever the feeling is, you question it. You act like it's a person. You
Oh,
say,
I like
hey,
this.
where did that come from? Who are you? Why are you here? Why did I just hear you? What are you serving me? What's your purpose? Can you tell me how often you show up in my life? Can you just keep questioning this thought or this feeling or this emotion. The more you do that, the more you become fully aware of yourself. But it does take, I'm going to say silence. I always hesitate to say go meditate because people are like, oh, meditation,
Yeah.
because it's difficult, right? To
Right.
just sit on the couch with nothing stimulating you, no TV on, no music in the background, no words in front of you, no phone. Just sit there. You don't have to, no pressure for anything. Just sit there, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. The more you do that, the more you'll start to unfold really what's going on in your mind, because we're so busy covering up what we don't want to hear that it's too much noise, and we have to kind of silence all the exterior noise that's happening. So that's the beginning, and you start to question everything. And then you have to become aware of when it's happening. So it probably happens multiple times a day.
Yeah. Right.
You go to work and you have a great idea and you submit the idea to your boss, and the boss acts like you never submitted it. Now you feel unheard again.
Yeah.
So this keeps repeating itself, right? Now what happens is you choose then, you have one of two choices, but most likely you choose to become more silent and keep things to yourself. But now you become resentful because you're not heard and you want to be heard, but you're keeping everything to yourself. So now you have resentment towards the people who you feel should hear you, such as your spouse, your boss, the
Right.
people that are close to you. And that resentment then turns into anger.
Right.
And then here we have this self-perpetuating cycle.
Oh my
of
goodness.
Over and over. And you just keep proving to yourself that what your subconscious thoughts are true.
So when it starts to repeat itself, that same loop, the boss doesn't answer your email or your idea, and you start to feel unheard and unloved again. Should somebody at that point, is it best for them to go back and start asking themselves those same questions? Why are you here again? What is your purpose for coming up in my mind? I see you. What do you have to tell me about this? You just kind of go back and start asking the same questions.
Yes, because then the more you do that, the more you can stop on the spot when it's happening. So I'll give you an example. And this happened, a couple of years ago. It's kind of funny. So I had a really big thing with impatience. I was impatient, and that's part of a control thing. So standing in the line at the grocery store, and this is like, I think during the beginning of the pandemic, maybe right before. And of course I got in the longest line, and I was about to just be like, I was like, I don't really have angry outbursts at all, but I was about to like explode. Like, are you kidding me? But then I stopped myself and I'm like, oh, there's that thing I don't like. I don't like that thing, that impatience, right? So I had to talk to myself, standing in line. I'm talking to myself, kind of like quietly talking to myself, like,
Right.
what's going on? What's happening? You're impatient. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay. Universe is saying you need to work on your patience. Okay, I
Right.
see. So it was
I
like,
see.
it took me like less than a minute to work through this. And then, okay, you're showing me that I still have patience to work on. I'll stand here and I'll either make a conversation or take care of something in an email, whatever.
Right.
Got it. So then the next time it happened, because the universe is going to test you,
Right.
not like it goes away right away.
Right.
I got tested a couple days later, back in the grocery store, and I just laughed. I was like, oh, that's funny. Like,
Yeah.
I was literally like, this is funny.
Yeah. Here we go
Okay.
again, but this time I got it.
Yeah. So now it's kind of like a running joke. Like, I actually got in line the other day. I go, no, we're on the longest line because I'm in it. It's good. And I just had a conversation with these people behind me. We had a great conversation. Time went by fast. It was all good. So it's not going to go away fast. It's not easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. It's something that takes serious dedication to want to shift and, focus on making the choices that align with you rather than what you've been continually doing. Because, the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, right? So we want to make choices that create different results because that's how we change. But honestly, most people are afraid of change because they're comfortable with where they're at, even though it's not where they want to be. It's familiar, and security is in that familiarity. But once we start shifting, there's a shift in our safety, which is the root chakra.
Right.
And then we feel like the shake in a foundation, and it's like, whoa, what's happening? And so you want to kind of like suck yourself back in and go back to what you knew.
Right.
But in order to change, you have to kind of shake that foundation and uproot the weeds, so to speak, to have new growth. And if we don't pull the weeds out, you're going to keep getting weeds.
Traci, how does somebody, I love that analogy, by the way. I just pulled out the weeds the other day, and that's what it felt like I was cleaning out and getting a fresh start. As you were talking about the patience scenario, I started remembering times where I've had to work through my patience as well. And I guess my question is, how does one work through the physical symptoms when you're working through something? For example, let's say that I'm working through something that I need patience with. I start to experience a rapid heart rate, and even starts to affect my cortisol levels. I feel my mouth getting dry. It's like I'm getting these anxiety symptoms over working on something that I know that's going to be for my own good and my higher good. So how does one shake off the physical symptoms when they arise?
So there's very simple things. And it's funny because I always mention the free and simple things and people won't do them because they're free and simple. Breathing, like just becoming fully aware of your breathing. You don't have to do any kind of specific breath work. It's literally just being aware of the breath going in and out of your nose. Simple, right? Super simple, does not take much. Everyone can do it. You could teach a 2-year-old to do that. Another one is grounding, going outside barefoot. And I realize, some people are in 80 feet of snow right now, but as much as possible, going outside and grounding yourself, drinking water.
Yeah.
It's really just, it's slowing down and just being aware of your own presence.
Ooh, I
Sometimes
love that.
it just like clapping your hands in front of your face,
Yeah.
snapping your fingers, because it makes you more aware of what you're doing with your body instead of going through the regular channels of fight or flight and all that stuff. But it takes practice before you get into that scenario, because if you don't practice going into that scenario is going to suck you back into ego. So you have to practice these things, like being aware of your breath, being aware of your body. You can even just do a body scan, like, okay, just feel my hand, feel my left hand, feel my right hand, feel my feet.
That.
Because if you don't practice it when you're in a calm state, it won't happen in an anxious state or a fight or freeze state.
Right.
So it takes practice, but it could take 30 seconds multiple times a day, and that's it. And you don't even have to do anything. You just be aware. If you're driving, be aware of your driving. Don't be texting and doing this and doing that.
Right.
Feel your hands on the steering wheel, feel your feet on the pedals, feel where you're at in space and time. If you're brushing your teeth, really be aware of your teeth while you're brushing. It doesn't have to be anything dramatic or like over the top. Again, it's free and easy and simple, and can be so quick. But the more you do it, the more you practice it, like chewing your food slowly, really tasting the food. That's one I still is focusing on, because that's a hard one for me. But just creating the awareness so that when you get triggered, you aren't flying off the handle for a long time. You're still going to probably go into a fight or flight, but hopefully within 30 seconds to a minute, you can kind of come back and go, okay, wait, let me breathe. Let me be aware of my body right now. What's happening? Even if your heart rate does spike up, just be aware that my heart rate is going high right now. Just be like, oh, look at my heart rate is going high. And that's just an awareness. No judgment, no, don't beat yourself up over it. Just be aware.
So being as present as possible right here, right now, hear it, touch it, smell it, face it right in its face, stop it in its tracks by being as present as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I'd like to talk about a couple other things that I see that you're an expert at here. One of them is vibration, raising vibrations, and also ancestral healing or ancestral trauma. I guess while I'm thinking about these, I'm wondering, when somebody finally is able to release a certain anxiety or a certain fear that's either derived from this life or ancestral, does that ultimately raise your vibration, or can you also raise your vibration in other ways, not necessarily from healing from these traumas?
You can raise it multiple ways, which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk about that first. So raising your vibration. I want to talk about just spiritual bypassing really quick, because
I've never heard that term, spiritual bypassing.
Yeah, you kind of fall, a lot of people, I did too. You fall into this trap of being on the spiritual journey, and you think you use all of these tools as a way to really bypass your own work. So like you get all this knowledge and you gain all this knowledge and you suck it in, but you never actually do the work. You think you're doing the work because you're reading about it, but then you don't actually do the own work. Your own work is ugly. It's like the shadow work. Spiritual bypassing is when you're just kind of like glossing it over and putting lipstick on a pig, so to speak. So anyways, raising vibration is about really doing the inner work.
Okay, wow.
So that you can walk the walk, talk the talk, because your energy goes out into the universe constantly,
Mm-hmm.
and whatever you put out comes back. So you know that what you are experiencing in your reality is a reflection of what you're putting out. So if you don't like your current reality, and you're like, yes, but I'm doing all the work, it takes a little bit. There's some lag time. But also, if you've been doing spiritual work for over a year and you're still experiencing a reality you don't like, you need to look at spiritual bypassing as a possibility that that's what's happening, or you still have lessons that you're just ignoring that you need to learn. But whatever you put out comes back threefold. So, so having that awareness is super important, because your vibration extends. I mean, there's no limit to how far your energy goes. It can go, there's no time or space with energy. It's instantaneous. So
Right.
if you know the double slit experiment, right?
Yeah, totally.
Heisenberg's double slit experiment. So, energy, which is a molecule, can be everywhere all at once. So, and have the same frequency as its partner. Anyways, I won't get onto that tangent. But to raise your vibration, there are things that will raise it up, and there are things that are lower it down. There's a scale of consciousness by Dr. David Hawkins, which I'm sure you're aware of. And the scale goes from 0 to 1,000. The level 500 is love, which only like 0.1% of the population's at, because it's unconditional love. You can
This is the
experience
frequency emotional scale.
Mhm. You can experience love, but most people aren't sitting in that love all the time. So things such as the right kind of water. So if you're drinking fluoridated water, that will calcify your pineal gland. So you want to make sure you're drinking high quality water without fluoride or arsenic or anything else in there. Eating high vibrational foods. So always, of course, a lot of them are banned in the US, of course, but
Really?
things
Like what?
like the real cocaine plant, which is called mabe, is actually the superfood of superfoods, but it's banned, obviously. But any kind of fresh herbs are always super high vibrational. And then, of course, leafy greens, and then going down from there all the way down to highly processed foods would be low vibrational. So you want to make sure you're getting mostly high vibrational foods, because you're taking in the energy of whatever made that food. So if you're, it's like if your grandmother made you a plate of food, it tastes so good because she made it with love.
Right.
But if you got it from your spouse who's mad at you, it's not going to taste as good.
That's so true.
The energy of them went into that food.
Right.
So it's always about where it came from. So if you're eating, chicken from a farm that the cows were under a lot of stress, or the chickens, not the cows, the chickens were under a lot of stress, you're getting those stress hormones in the chicken. And so then you're getting a low vibration. So TV is another one.
Which is why they say if you eat chicken, the best way to do it is make sure they're cage free and okay, wow,
Happy
all this
chickens.
totally makes sense.
Happy chickens.
Yeah, happy chickens, right? Right.
It's funny because I have eggs, and I did a Facebook post about my egg yolks. They're like orange. People are like, that's not possible. I'm like, yeah, it is. They were outside eating actual grass, not feed. They're happy chickens, and the company's called Happy Eggs. And so if your listeners eat happy eggs, they'll know the yolks are like orange, and not pale yellow. So
wow,
it makes a difference. I mean, the nutritional value is the same, but the energetic value is totally different. Well, it's not the nutritional value is not exactly the same, but it's close. But the energetic value is a huge difference, because the chickens are able to run around freely and do whatever they want.
Traci, that's incredible.
Yeah. So, if you watch the news or read the news or absorb yourself in bad news, that lowers your vibration. But listening to, good stories, and again, not to gloss over, but it's everything you consume affects your energy. And by consuming, I mean with all your 5 senses: touching, seeing, feeling, experiencing, everything. So if you're in an environment that's toxic, that's going to lower your vibration. If you're with people who support you and love you and, help you grow and give you the accolades you deserve, that's going to raise your vibration. The words you say to yourself.
Right.
Do you love yourself? You know, I always ask my clients, do you love yourself? And if they hesitate, then I know, okay, this, you know, we have work to do. So you can ask yourself, or even say it out loud to yourself, I love myself. And if it feels uncomfortable, then you know you have work to do. So all of the things that we consume on every sense level will raise or lower your vibration. And so it's very important. That's why it's so important to connect to nature, be respectful of nature, because when you do damage to anything that has energy, which is everything is made of energy, then that will come back to you and create disharmony. So it's all about keeping your body in harmony. And by body, I mean mind, mental, emotional, spiritual, physical body. Keeping it in harmony will keep it healthy, young, vibrant. But going towards disharmony will create disease and, you know, the things that you don't want in life.
I love how you said that. Disharmony creates dis-ease. Out of ease, out of harmony.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to keep your vibration high all the time, or is it always an ebb and flow to it?
Well, you have kind of like a homeostasis point, and you will get peaks of highs and lows throughout the day. But yes, so I mean, I started at like 250. I'm over 500 now. I don't like to say my number, but when, you know, it can raise and raise and raise and raise, and you can
How do
raise
you
it
know
to
your
like,
number?
I test it. I do
How do
muscle
you do
testing.
Oh, I see.
Takes
The muscle
5 seconds.
testing where you can push down on your finger, that type of muscle testing?
Yep. But I use my whole body. But yeah, that kind of muscle testing.
Meaning where you
So
stand up and you kind of like
the
move
sway
back and
test.
forth?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay,
So
interesting. Wow.
you can, if your listeners can muscle test, then you just ask what number you're at and find out. So
Could you tell us a little bit more about that? What do you mean ask what number you're at and do the muscle testing? How does that work
so
specifically?
in order to properly muscle test, you just make sure that you're tapped into yourself and you're connected to your subconscious, because all of these answers come from your subconscious, which is pure thought. And by pure thought, I mean the right answer all the time. Okay.
Right.
Your logical mind tries to trick you, as well as your ego. So we want to make sure we're tapped into subconscious. Once you're tapped into subconscious, you can literally ask yourself anything. So I do this for clients because I can tap into their subconsciouses. But if you're doing it for yourself, you could say, you know, can I test my number on the scale of consciousness? And if you get a yes, then you can start asking what number you're at. Start at, you know, 200, 300, and then just figure out your exact number, and then you'll know. And then you can ask yourself anything you can think of, anything, as
It's
long
almost
as
like
it's a
using a
subconscious
pendulum.
question. Yes, except, well, so if you use the pendulum for that kind of work, then yes, but you can also use that to connect with your guides, which is different. So I always warn people, if you don't know how to use a pendulum, just use it as like a sway test or muscle testing. But if you're going to connect with your guides, there's definitely parameters, and you need to know how that works before you go messing around, because otherwise you won't get accurate answers.
So muscle testing is more for your own individual energy, and something like a pendulum is encompassing more than your own energy.
It's your higher self that your subconscious may not be aware of yet. So the answers may not line up. So you have to be kind of aware of the actual questions you're asking. It depends on how you ask them, you know, and what they're about, because your guides have a different, your higher self or guides have a different viewpoint than your subconscious does.
This is incredible. I love all this.
So glad.
Let's talk about subtle energy. You were briefly talking about that when we first started. Subtle energy alchemy. You mentioned this as well. In your biography, I was reading that. How can we describe what subtle energy alchemy is for your average person that has never heard this before?
Sure. So everything's frequency. Like I said, absolutely everything is made of frequency. Everything. Our thoughts are a frequency. Our, you know, the computers we're on right now, everything sounds a frequency. And when you want to change, you are literally changing your frequency. And some people want to rip the Band-Aid off, and that's totally cool. Most of my clients want something more subtle so that they can carry on with their daily life. You know, they have work and family. And so I help people shift their energy in a subtle way so that they can still manage, but yet still change. So it's not a ripping the Band-Aid off. So my coaching is the jumping off point. It's like when you're really ready to change. This is where we go from. I'm not the end point because the journey never ends. I always tell people journey never ends, but it's a really good launching pad because I give you tons of tools and techniques and ideas, and you learn, like there's education in it. You know, you're really learning about yourself, but you have to be ready. Like, you know, I actually interview my clients beforehand because if we're not right for each other, it's not going to work out, because I hear the deepest of details of people's lives. And if they're not ready to pull this stuff up, it's just going to spiral them back down. So I'm not for everyone, but if you're ready to change and you want some lasting, like really lasting change, you know, again, I'm not the only one who does this. There's so many people out in the world that have different ways of doing this, but I know my way is very effective for those who are ready for it. But again, it's subtle. So it's not a rip the Band-Aid off. There will be moments that it feels like that. I promise. All my clients cry. But it's at least you can still, I say, function in society on a regular basis.
What's an example of that? Subtly helping them with their subtle energy.
Well, you know, we'll look at maybe, let's say, one pattern for the day. So we look at one cycle that's not serving, or one past trauma that's no longer serving. And so we will go in. I try to rewire the circuitry, different techniques for that. And so there's crying, there's resistance, it feels horrible at the time. When it's over, so the session's an hour. So when that hour is over, it's like now their mind is going, because now they realize that their whole life has reflected off of the same pattern. Mm-hmm. And so it takes like a week or two, but they start to see the patterns that have, really infused into their life the same results. And so it's like, it just takes the subconscious some time to catch up and see, okay, we don't want that anymore. The ego kind of takes a little hit, but that's okay. So it's just this like kind of like maybe sadness, this grief, you're kind of letting go of something you've known forever, but you don't want anymore, like a bittersweet ending. So it can take like, a week, a month to kind of move past this one fully, but it's integrated over that time. So it's not just one big like, you're done.
Right. And so ultimately, once somebody actually goes through that whole grieving process of that pattern that they were stuck on, they raise their vibration.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes,
that's awesome.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Traci, this is incredible. And how long do you typically last with your clients? Do they come back weekly, monthly? What is it like for you and your clients?
It's a 15-week program, and it's once a week, and can be done in person or on Zoom. And it includes like a lot of tools within each week. There's a book recommendation, and there's also emotional releasing, and I have a frequency scanner that we can check physical stuff. So there's a lot involved. I have not too many people actually repeat, which is great. I have one client who she's doing once every 2 weeks now, because she just wants to make sure she's on the right path. So it's very individual, but most people finish and they continue their journey, which is all I can ask for.
Right. And I'm sure that's super rewarding for you. And you also raise your own vibration by raising other people's vibrations.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a win-win situation right there.
Mm-hmm. Sure is.
Traci, this has been amazing. Thanks so much for all of your wisdom, your incredible energy, for raising my vibration. How can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners find your program and find you if they need to get a hold of you?
Sure. It's consciousevolution.coach or on Facebook at Conscious Evolution Coach.
consciousevolution.coach. And that is your website?
Yep, that is my website.
Traci Hill, everybody, thank you so much for being on A Little Less Fear podcast. Keep raising people's vibrations. Keep your vibration up, and I will do the same. Thank you so much for sharing all of your incredible wisdom here on A Little Less Fear podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.